The USS Endeavour glided silently through the darkness of space, its sleek hull reflecting the distant starlight. Commander Jake Morrison stood at the viewport, hands clasped behind his back, watching as Kepler Prime grew larger in the distance. The blue-green planet shimmered with promise, home to the Galactic Council headquarters and, hopefully, humanity's future. "Commander, we're receiving the approach vectors now," Kate Sullivan called from her station, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. As Chief of Staff, she managed the ship's operations with precision that bordered on prescience. Jake nodded, turning away from the viewport. "Acknowledged. How's our diplomatic team doing?" "Ambassador Carter is reviewing the treaty documents one last time," Kate replied. "She seems nervous." "We all are," Jake said. "It's not every day humans get invited to join the Galactic Council." The year was 2247, and after centuries of isolation, humanity had finally ventured beyond their solar system, only to discover they were far from alone in the universe. The Galactic Council, a federation of 37 spacefaring species, had been watching Earth for decades. Now, they were offering membership, protection, and technological advancement in exchange for Earth's resources and strategic position. Lieutenant Commander Roy Blake entered the bridge, his military uniform crisp despite the 18-hour shift he'd just completed. "Security teams are ready, Commander, though I still think we should have brought more." Jake smiled thinly. "The Council was very specific about our escort limitations. We're here as guests, not an invasion force." "That's what concerns me," Roy muttered, but he took his station without further comment. Lisa Carter stood in her quarters, staring at her reflection in the mirror. As Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council, the weight of humanity's future rested squarely on her shoulders. At 42, she had risen through diplomatic ranks with a reputation for fairness and insight. Today would be the culmination of her life's work, the treaty signing that would usher humanity into a new era of interstellar cooperation. She brushed an imaginary speck from her formal blue uniform and turned as her door chimed. "Enter," she called. Kate Sullivan stepped into the room, datapad in hand. "Ambassador, we're 30 minutes from docking. Commander Morrison asked me to check if you need anything." Lisa shook her head. "Just making sure I look the part of humanity's representative." She gestured to the treaty displayed on her desk. "I've reviewed it a dozen times. The terms are fair. Protection, technology exchange, medical advancements. It's everything we hoped for." Kate nodded, but her expression remained reserved. "It seems almost too good to be true." "The Council needs us as much as we need them," Lisa assured her. "Our position near the Orion Arm gives them strategic advantage against the Vexar Dominion." "I hope you're right," Kate said. "The military contingent is less optimistic." Lisa sighed. "Roy Blake still thinks this is a trap?" "He's military. It's his job to be paranoid." "Well, tell him to keep that paranoia in check during the ceremony. We can't afford any diplomatic incidents." The USS Endeavour docked with the Kepler Prime orbital station 6 hours later. Jake led the delegation through the airlock, flanked by Roy and a small security team. Lisa walked beside him, her face composed into a mask of diplomatic serenity. The reception hall was a marvel of alien architecture, soaring ceilings that seemed to disappear into mist, walls that shimmered with colors humans had no names for. Representatives from dozens of species mingled, some humanoid, others defying categorization entirely. Admiral Vexar, the Council's military leader, approached them. His species, the Drazari, resembled tall, slender humans with iridescent scales where skin should be. His uniform bore countless decorations, each representing military victories across the galaxy. "Commander Morrison," Vexar said, his translator converting his sibilant language into perfect English. "Ambassador Carter, welcome to Kepler Prime. The Council awaits." They were led into a vast circular chamber. Tiered seating rose on all sides, filled with representatives from member species. At the center stood a simple pedestal with the treaty, both digital and physical versions, as was tradition. The council leader, an ancient being known only as the Arbiter, floated down from the highest tier. Unlike Vexar, the Arbiter belonged to an energy-based species with no permanent physical form, manifesting as a swirling vortex of light contained within a technological harness. Humans of Earth. The Arbiter's voice resonated in their minds rather than their ears. Today marks a historic occasion. Your species has shown remarkable resilience and innovation. The Council welcomes your contribution to our collective future. Lisa stepped forward, her training taking over despite her awe. On behalf of Earth and all humanity, we are honored to join the galactic community. We come seeking friendship, knowledge, and mutual protection. The ceremony proceeded with speeches from various council members, each extolling the virtues of cooperation and unity. Jake noticed Roy's posture growing increasingly tense as the hours passed. "Something wrong, Lieutenant Commander?" Jake whispered. Roy's eyes darted around the chamber. "Security protocols are inconsistent with what they provided in advance. There are 3 times as many guards as they claimed would be present, and they're positioned for containment, not protection." Jake frowned but maintained his diplomatic smile. "Note it, but don't act unless I give the order." Finally, the moment of signing arrived. Lisa approached the pedestal, accepting an ornate pen from the Arbiter. The physical treaty was an enormous document, hundreds of pages bound in material that seemed to shift and change under the light. "The treaty is presented in all council languages, including Earth Standard," the Arbiter explained. "Sign where indicated, and humanity will join our great alliance." Lisa nodded, finding the designated page. As she leaned forward to sign, the light caught the text strangely. For just a moment, symbols seemed to shift beneath the Earth Standard translation, revealing different patterns. She hesitated, pen hovering above the page. "Is there a problem, Ambassador?" Admiral Vexar asked, his tone pleasant but eyes sharp. Lisa glanced at Jake, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. Whatever doubts they had could be addressed later. This moment was too important. "No problem," she said, and signed her name with a flourish. Applause erupted from the assembly. The Arbiter's light form pulsed with what might have been satisfaction. "It is done," the Arbiter announced. "Earth is now under the protection of the Galactic Council. Representatives will accompany you home to establish proper diplomatic channels." 6 hours later, as the Endeavour prepared to depart Kepler Prime, Jake received an urgent communication from Earth. "Commander!" The panicked voice of Earth's defense minister filled the bridge. "The Council fleet, they're everywhere. Hundreds of ships just appeared in orbit without warning." Jake's blood ran cold. "What are their actions? Have they made contact?" "They're broadcasting on all frequencies, claiming authority over Earth by treaty rights. They're demanding immediate surrender of all military installations and government control." Jake spun to face Lisa, who had gone deathly pale. "What did we sign?" Before she could answer, the bridge doors hissed open. Admiral Vexar entered, flanked by armed guards. "Commander Morrison," he said smoothly, "by order of the Galactic Council, your vessel is now under our command. Please instruct your crew to stand down." Roy moved for his weapon, but Jake subtly signaled him to wait. They were outgunned and trapped. "What is the meaning of this, Admiral?" Jake demanded. "This violates the terms of our agreement." Vexar's scaled lips curved into what might have been a smile. "I suggest your ambassador review the treaty more carefully. The Galactic Council has not violated any terms. In fact, we're fulfilling our obligation to provide governance." Lisa stepped forward, her voice shaking with rage. "You used a language overlay. The treaty we thought we were signing isn't what I put my name to. A common misunderstanding when new species join the Council," Vexar said dismissively. The true treaty, in the Council's legal language, clearly establishes Earth as a protectorate under direct Council control. Your signature made it binding. Jake felt the blood drain from his face as the implications became clear. Earth hadn't gained an ally. They'd signed away their sovereignty without realizing it. "This won't stand," he said quietly. "Humanity won't accept this." Vexar's expression hardened. "They have no choice. Even now, Council forces are taking control of your planet's defenses and government facilities. Resistance would be unfortunate." As Vexar's guards moved to secure the bridge, Jake caught Roy's eye. A silent understanding passed between them. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. On Earth, chaos reigned as Council ships positioned themselves over major cities. Their message was broadcast globally. Earth was now under Council protection and administration. Resistance would be met with appropriate measures to ensure planetary security. In Washington, D.C., President Laura Kim was escorted from the White House by Council representatives. Her last act before being placed under house arrest was to transmit an emergency code to military installations worldwide. Fallen Eagle. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility that officially didn't exist. General Ben Hayes received the code and immediately activated Protocol Omega. Beside him, Dr. Amy Rodriguez watched as dormant systems came online. "How long have we been preparing for this?" she asked quietly. "Since first contact," Hayes replied, his weathered face grim. "Some of us never trusted the Council's convenient appearance just when we developed FTL capability." Amy nodded, entering commands that would activate similar facilities around the world. "How long until the weapon systems are ready?" 3 days for full capacity, Hayes said. "But we can deploy limited countermeasures within hours." Across the globe, hidden bunkers hummed to life. While the Council believed they were securing Earth's known military installations, they remained unaware of the shadow infrastructure built precisely for this scenario. In orbit, the USS Endeavour had been commandeered. Its crew confined to quarters, while Council technicians combed through its systems. Jake, Lisa, Roy, and Kate had been separated from the rest of the crew, placed under heavier guard due to their leadership positions. Jake sat in his quarters, which had become his prison. When the lights flickered briefly, most would have dismissed it as a power fluctuation. But he recognized the pattern, an old Earth military code. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short, SOS. Moments later, his door slid open. A Council guard entered, helmet obscuring his features. "On your feet, human," the guard ordered, voice distorted by the translator. Jake stood slowly, assessing his options. The guard approached, then suddenly removed his helmet, revealing a human face, Paul Murphy, head of the Endeavor's Special Operations Team. "Commander," Murphy whispered, "we don't have much time. Security systems are on a rotation cycle with a 3-minute blind spot. We've got 2 minutes left." "How did you—" "Susan Clark's work," Murphy said, referencing the ship's intelligence officer. "She hacked into their systems during the takeover. Most of the crew is still locked down, but we've freed a tactical team." Jake nodded. "Where are the others? Blake, Sullivan, Carter?" "Blake's organizing resistance in the lower decks. Sullivan is with Clark in the comms hub. Carter." Jake noted his hesitation. "What about Ambassador Carter?" "She's being interrogated by Vexar. They're not being gentle." Jake's jaw tightened. "Get me to the bridge auxiliary controls. We need to send a message to Earth." As they moved through the ship's service corridors, avoiding patrols, Jake learned that Susan Clark had managed to establish a secure communication channel with Earth's hidden resistance network. The news from home was grim. Council forces had quickly subdued conventional military resistance, but scattered groups had gone underground, coordinating through channels the Council couldn't monitor. They reached a maintenance junction that provided backdoor access to the ship's communication systems. "We have 40 seconds before the next security sweep," Murphy warned. Jake worked quickly, inputting a coded message to be transmitted on frequencies that only Earth's hidden facilities would monitor. Phoenix rising. Endeavor compromised but operational. Await coordinates for rendezvous. He hit transmit just as the system indicated an approaching security scan. Murphy pulled him back into the service corridor as the scan passed through the junction. "Now what?" Jake asked. "Now we find Blake and plan our next move," Murphy replied. "The Council thinks they've won, but they don't understand humans very well if they believe we'll just surrender." On Earth, the resistance was taking shape. Ben Hayes and Amy Rodriguez had established contact with similar facilities worldwide. Their underground network had been designed to operate independently of Earth's conventional infrastructure, making it invisible to Council oversight. "We've received communication from the Endeavor," Amy announced, scanning the decoded message. "Commander Morrison is alive and has maintained some control of the ship." Hayes nodded. "Good. What about our orbital assets?" "The Council disabled most of our military satellites, but the stealth platforms are still operational. They don't know about Project Prometheus." Hayes allowed himself a grim smile. "Then we still have cards to play. Send the rendezvous coordinates to the Endeavor, Titan Base." Saturn's largest moon had been humanity's first major outpost beyond Mars. Officially, a research station studying the moon's hydrocarbon lakes. Titan Base housed Earth's most advanced shipyard, hidden beneath the surface where the Council's sensors couldn't penetrate. Amy transmitted the coordinates, then turned to a different console. "What about the civilian population? The Council is establishing administrative centers in major cities." President Kim managed to broadcast a coded message before they took her. Hayes said, "People know this isn't a friendly alliance. Civilian resistance cells are already forming." Amy looked troubled. "They're no match for Council technology." "No," Hayes agreed. "But they can gather intelligence, conduct sabotage operations, and most importantly, stay free from Council indoctrination programs. We need time to prepare our counterstrike." Back on the Endeavor, Jake had reunited with Roy Blake in the ship's cargo bay, now serving as an impromptu resistance headquarters. 24 crew members had been freed from confinement, each chosen for specific skills. "We can't take the ship with this few people," Roy said bluntly. "The Council has at least 100 troops aboard." "We don't need to take the whole ship," Jake replied. "Just the auxiliary craft bay. The shuttles have FTL capability for short jumps." Roy nodded slowly. "We could reach Saturn with a series of jumps. But what about the others? We can't leave them behind." "We won't," Jake assured him. "But we need to establish contact with Earth's resistance first. Once we have secure communications and resources, we'll come back for them." Kate Sullivan entered the cargo bay, her uniform torn and dirty from crawling through maintenance tubes. "We've received coordinates from Earth. Titan Base is operational and expecting us." Jake felt the first stirring of hope. "What about Ambassador Carter?" Kate's expression darkened. "They've moved her to Vexar's command ship. Susan intercepted communications. They're taking her to Kepler Prime for a public acknowledgement of the treaty terms." "In other words, a forced confession to legitimize their takeover," Jake said bitterly. "There's more," Kate continued. "The Council is bringing in colonial administrators. They're planning to reorganize Earth's government entirely." Roy slammed his fist against a crate. "This was never about alliance. They wanted our resources, our strategic position, and our labor. And they're about to learn why that was a mistake," Jake said quietly. "Kate, how soon can we access the shuttle bay?" "Susan's created a diversion in the environmental systems. When the alarms trigger, security will be drawn to Deck 6. That gives us a 5-minute window to reach the shuttles." Jake nodded. "Everyone grab essential supplies. We leave in 20 minutes." The diversion worked perfectly. As alarms blared about a catastrophic life support failure on Deck 6, Jake led his team through deserted corridors toward the auxiliary craft bay. They encountered only token resistance, 2 Council guards easily subdued by Murphy's tactical team. 3 shuttles sat ready in the bay, each capable of carrying 8 passengers. Jake divided the freed crew among them, taking command of the lead shuttle himself, with Roy and Kate joining him. "Launch sequence initiated," Kate announced from the co-pilot seat. "Bay doors opening. All shuttles, maintain radio silence once we clear the Endeavour," Jake instructed. "Follow the jump coordinates precisely. We'll regroup at Titan." The shuttles slipped out of the Endeavour's bay and accelerated away. Behind them, Council personnel were only just realizing what had happened, scrambling fighters to pursue. But the shuttles had already disappeared into FTL jumps before the fighters could launch. Lisa Carter sat in a sterile interrogation room aboard Admiral Vexar's flagship. Her face was bruised, her formal uniform replaced with a prisoner's gray jumpsuit. Despite the physical discomfort, her greatest pain was psychological, the knowledge that she had signed the document that handed Earth to the Council. The door slid open, and Vexar entered, accompanied by 2 guards and a recording drone. "Ambassador Carter," he said smoothly, "I trust you've had time to reflect on your situation." Lisa stared at him in silence. "Your defiance is pointless," Vexar continued. "Earth is already under Council administration. Your military has been neutralized. Your leaders have been contained." "And yet you're here," Lisa said, her voice hoarse but steady. "Which suggests things aren't going as smoothly as you claim." Vexar's scales rippled. In what she had learned was irritation. "Minor resistance from those who don't understand the benefits of Council governance. They will learn, as will you." He gestured to the drone, which hovered forward. "You will record a statement acknowledging the legitimacy of the treaty and urging all humans to cooperate with Council authorities." Lisa laughed, a harsh sound devoid of humor. "I won't." "You misunderstand. Ambassador, this isn't a request." Vexar nodded to one of the guards, who stepped forward with a small device. "This neural pacifier will make you quite cooperative. Your mind will remain conscious, aware of everything you say and do, but unable to resist our instructions." Lisa felt real fear then, but kept her expression neutral. "The people of Earth will never believe a statement made under such obvious duress." "They will if it's delivered with conviction," Vexar replied. "And you will be very convincing." As the guard approached with the device, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. The deck shuddered beneath them. "Admiral!" a voice called over the comms. "We're under attack! Multiple unidentified vessels!" Vexar's composure slipped. "Impossible. Secure the prisoner and get me to the bridge." As he rushed out, Lisa felt a surge of hope. Someone was fighting back. The attack on Vexar's flagship came from vessels unlike anything the Council had encountered before. Sleek, black ships that absorbed sensor scans rather than reflecting them, moving with impossible agility through the Council fleet in Earth orbit. On the lead ship's bridge, Susan Clark directed the assault, her intelligence background proving invaluable in predicting Council defense patterns. "Target their communication arrays first," she instructed. "Then weapon systems. Avoid their engines. We don't want the ships to lose orbit and crash to Earth." Beside her, Paul Murphy coordinated the tactical teams that would board Vexar's flagship. Team Alpha ready for insertion, breach point identified. This rescue mission had been deemed too risky by Hayes and the Earth Resistance leadership. But Susan and Paul had disagreed. Ambassador Carter's value as a symbol was too great to ignore, and her knowledge of Council operations could prove crucial. "Beginning boarding operation," Paul announced, as their ship locked onto the flagship's hull. Specialized cutting tools created an entry point that wouldn't trigger the flagship's breach alarms. On Titan, Jake Morrison and his team had arrived to find the base fully operational. What had once been a research facility was now a military headquarters, with advanced ships under construction in vast underground hangars. "We've been preparing for this possibility for years," explained Dr. James Wilson, the base's director. "After first contact, A contingent within Earth's leadership never fully trusted the Council's intentions. Jake surveyed the activity around him with amazement. All this was built secretly. Wilson nodded. Using technology reverse-engineered from salvaged alien craft. The Council isn't the only extraterrestrial presence humanity has encountered. Why wasn't I informed? Jake demanded. I was commanding our flagship mission to the Council. Compartmentalization, Ben Hayes said, entering the command center. If the Council had telepathic operatives, the fewer people who knew, the better. Jake recognized the general's pragmatism, but didn't like being kept in the dark. What's our current situation? Hayes activated a holographic display showing Earth and the surrounding space. Council forces have established control over major government and military installations. Their ships maintain orbital supremacy. But he highlighted numerous points across the globe. Resistance cells are active worldwide, and our stealth platforms remain undetected in orbit. What about the civilian population? Kate asked. Under curfew in major cities, Hayes replied. The Council is presenting itself as a benevolent authority, promising technological advancement and protection. Some believe it, most don't. And the Endeavor? Jake asked. Still in Earth orbit, now fully under Council control. They're using it as a command post for their Earth operations. Roy Blake studied the display intently. What forces do we have available? Hayes gestured to another section of the hologram, showing Saturn and its moons. 36 advanced combat vessels hidden throughout the Saturnian system, another 20 under construction, plus the stealth platforms around Earth, armed with our most advanced weapon systems. Not enough for a direct confrontation, Roy said. No, Hayes agreed, which is why we're not planning one. This will be a guerrilla campaign, hit-and-run attacks, intelligence gathering, and targeted strikes against their command structure. Jake nodded slowly. While building our forces here. Exactly. The Council believes they've won. They don't know we've been preparing for this scenario since they first appeared. A communication officer approached urgently. General, we're receiving a transmission from Earth orbit. It's Susan Clark. They've launched an unauthorized rescue operation against Admiral Vexar's flagship. Hayes's expression darkened. Put it through. Susan's voice came through clearly, despite the obvious sounds of combat in the background. General, we've breached the flagship and located Ambassador Carter. Extraction in progress. But we've encountered heavy resistance. This operation wasn't approved, Lieutenant, Hayes said sharply. With respect, sir, it needed to be done. The Council was preparing to use a neural pacifier on the ambassador to force a public endorsement of their occupation. Jake stepped forward. Susan, this is Commander Morrison. What's your status? Commander, we've secured a path to our extraction point, but Council reinforcements are closing in. We need a diversion. Hayes hesitated, then nodded to his communications officer. Activate Phantom Squadron. Target the Council fleet's communication systems only. Across Earth orbit, previously dormant satellites suddenly powered up, targeting the Council ships with precision strikes that disabled their ability to coordinate. In the resulting confusion, Susan's team managed to extract Lisa Carter from the flagship and escape. Hours later, a battered but triumphant Susan brought her ships into Titan Base. Lisa Carter was immediately taken to medical facilities, suffering from malnutrition and interrogation techniques that bordered on torture. Jake visited her as soon as the doctors allowed. He found her sitting up in bed, her physical injuries treated, but her eyes haunted. Commander Morrison, she said quietly, I owe you an apology. I signed that treaty without proper verification. Jake shook his head. They deceived all of us. Ambassador. Their language overlay technology was designed specifically for this purpose. Nevertheless, I failed humanity. Lisa's voice broke. I handed Earth to them on a silver platter. No, Jake said firmly. You did your job based on the information available. Now we do ours, and take back what's ours. Lisa looked up, a spark returning to her eyes. How? The Council controls Earth's orbit. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Not all of it, Jake replied. And they've made a critical mistake. What's that? They underestimated humanity's capacity for resistance, and they don't know about our preparations. Over the next weeks, the resistance grew both on Earth and at Titan Base. Hayes and Rodriguez coordinated with cells across Earth, gathering intelligence and conducting targeted sabotage against Council installations. Meanwhile, Jake, Roy, and Kate worked with Titan's engineers to prepare their fleet. The ships being constructed in Titan's underground hangars incorporated technology that Earth's official military had never possessed. Advancements reverse-engineered from various extraterrestrial sources over decades. The Council isn't the first alien presence we've encountered, Wilson explained, as he showed Jake their latest vessel. Just the first to approach us openly. Why keep this secret from Earth's population? Jake asked. Fear of panic, initially, Wilson admitted. Later, concern about Council surveillance. They've been watching Earth since our first radio transmissions reached space. Jake ran his hand along the ship's hull, feeling the strange material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. And these vessels can stand against Council technology. They're not invincible, Wilson cautioned, but they incorporate elements the Council doesn't possess. Our greatest advantage is surprise. They believe they know the full extent of Earth's capabilities. On Earth, resistance grew despite Council efforts to maintain control. President Laura Kim, though under house arrest, had managed to establish a secret communication network. Her messages, broadcast through hidden channels, kept hope alive among the population. Fellow citizens of Earth, her voice would announce during random power fluctuations that briefly overrode Council broadcasts. Do not surrender to despair. The Council's occupation is temporary. Humanity has not fallen. We have only begun to fight. These messages were coordinated with acts of resistance, power outages in administrative centers, sabotage of Council transport systems, the sudden appearance of the symbol "Run" painted on walls overnight. Admiral Vexar grew increasingly frustrated as these incidents multiplied. In a secure communication with the Arbiter, he voiced his concerns. These humans are more resourceful than our intelligence suggested, he reported. Their resistance is concerning. The Arbiter's energy form pulsed with what might have been irritation. They are primitives with borrowed technology. Increase containment measures. Use the neural pacifiers on local leadership if necessary. The neural pacifiers have proven less effective than anticipated, Vexar admitted reluctantly. Their minds have unexpected resilience. Then, use more direct methods, the Arbiter commanded. The Earth must be secured. Its strategic position is too valuable to lose, particularly with the Draconis Collective expanding their territory. Vexar bowed. It will be done. The Council's response was swift and brutal. Curfews tightened. Public gatherings were prohibited. Citizens found with resistance materials disappeared into detention centers. Yet, for every resistance cell the Council dismantled, 2 more emerged. At Titan Base, preparations accelerated as reports of the Council's crackdown reached them. Jake called a strategy meeting with all key personnel. The Council is escalating, he began grimly. Our window for effective countermeasures is narrowing. Hayes nodded. Their reinforcements will arrive within 2 weeks, once their fleet is doubled. Even our stealth technology may not be sufficient. Then we strike now, Roy said, before they're at full strength. Kate pulled up tactical displays. We've identified 3 critical targets. Their orbital command center, formerly our Endeavor, Admiral Vexar's flagship, and their ground headquarters in what was the United Nations building. A 3-pronged attack? Lisa asked. She had recovered enough to join the planning sessions, her diplomatic experience providing valuable insight into Council psychology. Precisely, Jake confirmed. Simultaneous strikes to disrupt their command structure and communication. We don't have the forces for a sustained campaign, Hayes cautioned. We don't need one, Jake replied. This isn't about defeating their entire presence in a single battle. It's about demonstrating that Earth isn't the easy conquest they thought. Susan Clark, who had been analyzing Council communication patterns, spoke up. There's another factor to consider. Not all Council species support this occupation. The Lyrani and Tyrellians have expressed reservations in internal communications. Jake leaned forward with interest. Could we exploit these divisions? Possibly, Susan said. Particularly if we can access the Council's central communication hub on Kepler Prime. That's beyond our current reach, Hayes objected. Not necessarily, Jake said slowly. If we capture the Endeavor, we could use its Council access codes to infiltrate their network. The plan took shape over the next days. The attack would begin with Phantom Squadron, Earth's hidden orbital platforms, creating a diversion by targeting Council ships in Earth orbit. Meanwhile, strike teams would board both the Endeavor and Vexar's flagship. The ground assault on the UN headquarters would be led by resistance cells, coordinated by President Kim, timed to coincide with the orbital attacks. As the day approached, Jake addressed the assembled forces at Titan Base. What we attempt tomorrow isn't just about regaining control of Earth, he told them. It's about sending a message to the Galactic Council and any other power that might consider humanity an easy target. We may be younger than many spacefaring species, but we will not surrender our freedom without a fight. The strike force departed Titan Base under complete communication blackout. 20 ships, each carrying specialized teams, used Saturn's rings for cover as they prepared for the long approach to Earth. On Earth, resistance cells moved into position. Secret weapons caches were opened. Citizens who had been quietly gathering intelligence prepared to rise up. In her guarded residence, President Kim received the coded message, Phoenix Rising. Tomorrow would decide humanity's fate. The battle began at dawn GMT. Phantom Squadron activated simultaneously, targeting Council ships with electromagnetic pulses that disabled their systems without destroying the vessels. In the resulting chaos, Jake's strike force emerged from stealth approach, their ships suddenly appearing within Earth's orbit. All vessels, commence attack pattern Omega, Jake ordered from the bridge of the lead ship, now named Phoenix. Target designated objectives only. Minimize collateral damage. The Council fleet, caught completely by surprise, scrambled to respond, but their command structure had been specifically targeted, leaving individual captains without coordinated orders. Jake's team approached the Endeavor, now serving as the Council's orbital command center. Using access codes Susan had extracted from Council communications, they managed to dock without triggering alarms. Boarding team ready, Roy reported, leading the strike force that would retake the ship. Remember, we need the command center intact, Jake reminded him. And if possible, capture rather than kill. We need intelligence. Roy nodded grimly. Understood. Moving out. Meanwhile, a second team led by Paul Murphy approached Vexar's flagship. Without access codes, their boarding would be more direct, cutting through the hull at a predetermined weak point. On Earth, resistance cells launched coordinated attacks against Council administrative centers. The largest force, led by underground military units, surrounded the UN building where the Council had established their headquarters. Council forces fought back with advanced weapons, but the element of surprise gave humanity a critical advantage. The resistance had studied Council tactics for weeks, learning patterns and weaknesses. In orbit, Roy's team fought their way through the Endeavor, deck by deck. Council security forces resisted fiercely, but found themselves outmaneuvered in the ship they had thought they controlled. "We've secured engineering," Roy reported over the secure channel, moving toward the bridge. Jake acknowledged from the Phoenix, where he coordinated the overall assault. Kate monitored communications from all teams, providing tactical updates as the battle progressed. "Murphy's team has breached Vexar's flagship," she reported. "Heavy resistance, but they're advancing toward the command deck. And Earth? Jake asked. Resistance forces have surrounded Council headquarters. President Kim is broadcasting on all frequencies, calling for Council surrender. The battle raged for hours. Council reinforcements arrived from nearby outposts, but found themselves targeted by Phantom Squadron's precision strikes before they could join the main conflict. On the Endeavor, Roy's team reached the bridge, engaging in fierce combat with Council forces. The ship's former command center had been modified with Council technology, but the layout remained familiar. Bridge secured, Roy finally reported, his voice strained from exertion. We've captured 3 Council commanders. The ship is ours. Similar reports came from Murphy's team aboard Vexar's flagship, though the Admiral himself had escaped in a command shuttle. Most of his staff had been captured or neutralized. On Earth, Resistance forces breached the UN building, engaging Council administrators in room-by-room combat. By midday, President Kim stood in the General Assembly Hall, surrounded by captured Council officials. This is Laura Kim, President of the United Earth Government, she broadcast globally. Council forces are being neutralized across the planet. To any Council personnel remaining, surrender immediately or face the consequences of continued hostilities. With the Endeavor recaptured, Jake transferred his command there, bringing Kate and Lisa with him. The familiar bridge, despite Council modifications, felt like coming home. Access their communication systems, he instructed Susan, who had joined them from her ship. We need to broadcast to the entire Council network. Susan worked with the captured systems, her intelligence background proving invaluable. I've got access to their emergency channel. All Council ships and outposts will receive this. Jake nodded to Lisa, who stepped forward. As Earth's official ambassador, her words would carry diplomatic weight. Attention all Galactic Council forces, she began, her voice steady despite the emotion visible in her eyes. This is Ambassador Lisa Carter of Earth. The treaty signed under false pretenses is hereby declared null and void. Earth reclaims its sovereignty, effective immediately. She paused, then continued with steel in her voice. To the Council leadership, your forces in Earth space have been neutralized. Your attempt to subjugate humanity has failed. We offer one chance for peaceful withdrawal. All Council ships must leave Earth orbit within 24 hours. Any remaining will be considered hostile and treated accordingly. As Lisa spoke, Susan continued working with the captured communication systems. She had discovered something unexpected, a backdoor into the Council's central network on Kepler Prime. Commander, she said urgently, as Lisa finished, I can access their Galactic Central Station, their automated defense systems, their communications, everything. Jake's eyes widened. Can you broadcast to all Council worlds simultaneously? Susan nodded. Yes, but they'll trace it and shut us out quickly. We only need a moment, Jake said. He turned to Kate. Remember what you said when we first discovered their deception? What you would tell them if you had the chance? Kate nodded slowly, understanding dawning. One word. Jake gestured to the communication console. All Council worlds. Make it count. Kate stepped forward, composing herself. Susan established the connection, overriding security protocols using command codes extracted from the captured Council officers. Signal established, Susan announced. Broadcasting to all Council systems, now. Kate leaned toward the transmission array, her voice clear and unwavering as she spoke a single word. Run. The effect was immediate. Across Council space, the message appeared on every communication system, every public broadcast, every military channel. One human word, translated into all Council languages, accompanied by the image of Earth's forces defeating the occupation fleet. On Kepler Prime, the Arbiter's energy form fluctuated wildly as reports flooded in, not just from Earth, but from other subjugated worlds where resistance had suddenly intensified, inspired by humanity's example. How is this possible? The Arbiter demanded of his advisors. They're primitives! But the evidence was undeniable. Humanity had not only repelled the Council's occupation, but had penetrated their most secure networks. The message was spreading across the galaxy. The invincible Galactic Council had been defeated by a species they had dismissed as easy prey. Back at Earth, the Council fleet was in disarray. With their command structure disrupted and facing unexpected resistance, many captains chose to retreat rather than continue a losing battle. Within hours, ships were jumping to FTL, abandoning their ground forces. In what had been the Council headquarters, President Kim addressed Earth's population directly for the first time since the occupation began. "Citizens of Earth, today we reclaim our freedom," she declared. "The Council's attempt to subjugate humanity has failed, thanks to the bravery of our armed forces and resistance fighters worldwide. But our struggle is not over. The Council will return, perhaps not today or tomorrow, but eventually. We must be prepared." She outlined plans for a unified Earth Defense Force, incorporating the advanced technology developed in secret. No longer will Earth's nations stand divided against threats from beyond our world. We must stand as one. On the Endeavor, Jake received reports from across the solar system as Council forces retreated. Lisa joined him on the bridge, watching the tactical displays with a mixture of relief and apprehension. "They'll be back," she said quietly, "with greater numbers." "Yes," Jake agreed, "but we'll be ready, and we won't be alone." He gestured to communications Susan had intercepted, messages from other species who had suffered under Council rule, reaching out to the humans who had done the impossible. "The Council's empire was built on deception and intimidation," Jake said. "We've shown the galaxy it can be resisted." "What happens now?" Lisa asked. "We rebuild, we prepare, and we form our own alliances, not with the Council, but with others who value freedom." Kate approached, offering a datapad with preliminary reports from Earth. Civilian casualties were minimal. Council forces either surrendered or retreated to extraction points. President Kim is establishing a unified government with representatives from all nations. Jake nodded, then addressed the bridge crew. "Send word to all our forces. The immediate threat has been neutralized, but remain vigilant. This is only the beginning." 2 months later, representatives from Earth and a dozen formerly subjugated worlds gathered on Titan Base. The secret facility, once hidden from all but a few humans, now served as neutral ground for a new alliance, one based on mutual respect rather than domination. Jake, now Admiral Morrison of Earth's Unified Defense Force, watched as Lisa Carter signed genuine treaties with species who had suffered under Council rule. Each had brought technology, knowledge, or resources to share, creating a cooperative that might one day rival the Council itself. "A remarkable achievement," Kate commented, standing beside him. "From occupation to galactic alliance in 2 months. Necessity breeds strange alliances," Jake replied. "And nothing unites like a common enemy." The Council had withdrawn to their core systems, their reputation severely damaged by humanity's resistance. Internal divisions, always present but previously suppressed, had erupted into open conflict between factions. The Arbiter's authority was being questioned for the first time in centuries. "Our intelligence suggests they're rebuilding their fleet," Roy reported during a security briefing, "preparing for a potential counterattack." "Let them come," President Kim said firmly. "Earth is no longer the isolated world they tried to conquer. We have allies, technology, and most importantly, a united purpose." The symbol that had started as an act of resistance, the word "run," painted on walls during occupation, had become Earth's unofficial motto. It appeared on military vessels, diplomatic communications, even civilian clothing, a reminder of humanity's defiance and a warning to any who might threaten their freedom. As Jake stood on the observation deck of the newly reconstructed Endeavor, watching Earth rotate peacefully below, Lisa joined him. "Do you think they understood?" she asked. When Kate broadcast that message to all council worlds? Jake nodded slowly. I think they're beginning to. One word. Not a plea, not a threat, but a warning. When you betray humanity, when you threaten our freedom, when you underestimate our resolve, run. Lisa smiled, her diplomatic composure briefly giving way to satisfaction. And they did. For now, Jake cautioned, this isn't over. The Council ruled for millennia before we entered the galactic stage. They won't accept defeat easily. No, Lisa agreed. But neither will we. And that's something they never anticipated. Beyond Earth's orbit, new defense platforms were being constructed, visible deterrents against future aggression. But the planet's true strength lay in what couldn't be seen, the unity of purpose that had emerged from occupation, the hidden facilities continuing to develop advanced technology, and the growing network of alliances with other independent worlds. The Galactic Council had sought to add another conquered species to their collection. Instead, they had awakened a force that would ultimately challenge their dominion across the stars. And it had all begun with one word: run. In communication centers across Council space, that word continued to appear randomly on screens, injected into their networks by resistance hackers. A persistent reminder that humanity would not be forgotten or forgiven. The age of Earth's isolation had ended, not with peaceful integration into a galactic community, but with defiance against those who would rule through deception. A new era had begun, founded on humanity's most enduring quality, the unyielding determination to remain free. As ships from allied worlds arrived in Earth orbit, bringing delegates, technology, and hope, Jake Morrison looked toward the stars with new perspective. The galaxy was vaster and more dangerous than humanity had imagined, but also filled with potential allies and wonders yet undiscovered. What's our next move, Admiral? Kate asked, joining him on the bridge as the Endeavour prepared for its first mission since liberation. Jake studied the star chart, where dozens of systems glowed with possibility. We explore. We build. We prepare. He smiled slightly. And we remind anyone who thinks of humans as easy prey exactly why they should run.